Hi all, so today what we're going to do is we're going to pull the metadata from the CWRGM letters, so the Civil War and Reconstruction Governors of Mississippi letters. We are going to take their subject tags and we are going to create a network analysis out of them using the program Gephi. So network analyses are used to see what are different connections or communities between different things. And so this has been done from everything from genetics to, in this case, digital humanities. So in this particular case with the digital humanities version of things, I'm interested in figuring out what are the other things that are commonly talked about in the letters that are going to talk about a specific crime, and are there clusters or communities of those that are connected in various different ways. So how are these different subject tags connected together? So we're going to do that using the metadata here. So if we're on cwrgm.org, we are going to go down to data under the about tag. So under the about tag, this is where we can find all of the information. So in here, what we're going to do is we're going to use the CWRGM document metadata. So this is different from the subject ones that we used in the QGIS ones. So these ones are laid out by their document identification number. And so with the document identification number, there's tags attached to each of them. And all of those tags are going to be across the same thing. So if I have something that was tagged with larceny, all of the other tags that are in that letter are also going to be attached to this. And so we're going to use that one because we need to have those connection points together to create a network. So we need to know what things are together to know, how the networks are being formed based on their document ID. So I'm going to pull this one up. So this is the entire body of work. So with this one, there's lots of different letters. So there's 14,000 different letters that have been tagged in here. And so this is too much for what I want. So I'm just going to pull out a subsection of them. So I'm going to go over into the subjects, which should be down. There we go. So this AN one. So as you can see up here, right? So I've got military supplies, Mississippi governor, Mississippi militia, ordnance, and the John Jones Pettus. And so this is part of the Pettus collection of letters. So what we're going to see is there's going to be a lot that are going to be attached to the governors, right? Because all of these are going to the governors. So, but what I really want in here is I'm just going to pull out one set of these. So I'm going to say that I'm interested in maybe two different types of crimes. So I'm going to go and I'm going to filter this one out. So I'm going to go up to data. I'm going to go to filter. And so then under filter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I want larceny. I want to see larceny. And so then these are all of the ones that will have larceny somewhere in here. So now I've got larceny right there, right? So some of them are talking about prisoners, lawyers, larceny, all of the things that are common. So I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. I just want those ones. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare them against a different type of crime. So I'm going to go back to, did that wrong. Try that again. Larceny, took off the filter, not what I wanted to do. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this filter, and I'm going to say I want to know how larceny versus, I don't know, what's another one? Maybe they've got ones for assault. Let's do a violent crime. Let's go with assault. All right, so it looks like we do have assault and battery. There we go. So I want to see how larceny compares to the assault ones. So I've already got the larceny ones. I've now done the assault ones, and I'm going to just say add this selection to the current filter. So I'm going to add to it so that I don't have just the assault ones. I also have the larceny ones. So I'm going to say okay on that. And so now you can see that I've expanded that out. So I've got some that are looking at assault and then some that are looking at larceny. So I want to see how those ones are connected together. So I'm just going to copy these ones all out. I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to do that. So now we've got just the assault and the larceny ones. And I'm going to save this one down here. And I'm going to call this one assault and larceny. And this is the data set that we are going to use to pull in to Gephi. Yeah, that's fine. Now, I very rarely actually modify the original data set, so that's why I pulled it into a new page. Okay, so when we load up Gephi, and you can go and download that, it does kind of look like a sketchy website, but it is actually a perfectly fine one. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say, yeah, I want to open up a new project. If you're not sure how Gephi works, they also do have sample data sets that will work for you. Okay, so up here, overview is where your actual network analysis will go. Data laboratory is where you will end up with all of the data for the nodes and the edges, and we're going to talk about those in a sec. And then previews if you're going to download it or throw it up onto an online interactive forum or anything like that. So what I'm going to do here is the first thing I need to do is I need to go and I need to add in some plugins. So up under tools, I'm going to go to plugins. Now I've already downloaded the plugins, but the plugins that you will need to download are, there should be one that's called CSV. Let's try this one. CSV. Ah, there we go. Actually, I have not downloaded it. Okay, so there's one here that says convert Excel and CSV files to network, so you're going to need that one. And then I'm also, in a later one, we're going to come back and download a different one, but this is the one I want for here. So it's saying, yeah, you want to do that one? I say, yes, I do. I'm going to accept the terms. This is the same thing with anything QGIS related, where it's a little bit of buyer beware, so just be careful with this, and, you know, make sure that it's actually a fairly reputable one that is going to be able to be used, isn't going to break all of your things. So just be careful with some of them. Most of them are fine. This isn't a super, I mean, it's a popular program, but it's not crazy popular. So, I mean, there's a mixed bag attached to that. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new one. All right, so now what you can do is you go up into File, you can go and you can, you should be able to do this one that's called Import Spreadsheet. So when you go to Import Spreadsheet, you can head over into, which one is this one? 8909. 8909. There we go. This one, assault and larceny. Great. Okay, so, oh, I screwed this one up. It's not that one. Come back over here. No, not that one either. Is it just a general import? Ah, it's a general import. Okay, so this is where it is. So import spreadsheet, we're going to go over in another one. For this one is you actually want to go to File and just import. This is going to say, hey, what type of wizard do you want to use? And you do want to use your convert Excel and CSV file to networks. This is because there's a very specific way that Gephi needs to set up its networks, and we're going to talk about that in another video when we do more of a text analysis, network analysis instead of the subjects. So what you're going to do now is you're going to go to Next, and you're going to say, okay, I want to go select the file. And so I then go and find what I want to find, which is under my downloads, 8909, assault and larceny. There we go. So in this one, it says, okay, does it have headers and columns? And you say yes. And then you say, what is the field delimiter? So what is delimiting each of those columns. So because we're in a CSV, a comma separated one, you're going to choose comma in this particular case. If you have a tab one or some sort of tab based file, then you can also choose tab. If you have your table set up in a different way, you can also choose that. So I'm going to say, yep, that's the one that I want, and I'm going to go next. So this is where you have to choose what things are going to connect together. So in this case, we're going to try and connect all of the subjects together. And so what we're going to do in this case, but you don't have to, you could do like people to places, peoples to businesses, you can do a variety of different things. But for the way that this one works, we're going to want to do the subjects, and we're going to want to see what are all of the subjects that are connected together. So subject is connected to subject. So basically anything that's in the same subject category, that's what we're going to attach together. And we're going to say, yeah, that's fine. And so then it says, okay, so but if you're only connecting to a single field, are there sub things within those fields? And the answer to that is yes. And so it's asking, okay, well, how are they divided up within your field? So in this case, if we had gone back to the original one, ours are divvied up by semicolons. So you're going to put in the semicolons, and we know that it's not a comma because the fields are done by comma. So if it was done by comma, then there would be a whole mess of other things when you actually loaded this into your database, just in Excel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to semicolon, and we're going to say, yep, that's fine. And then it says, do you want to create a dynamic network through time? Now, our time field is not really well developed in CWRGM. And so in that particular case, we're not going to use it. And then it says, okay, how do you want to create this? I do want to create links between the subject agents and create links between subjects and subjects. Want to do that. Remove duplicates. So lines that have the exact same values in both the agent types will be removed. I don't want to do this because I already know that each individual letter has its own set of a unique identifier attached to a single letter. So even if there's the exact same tags, it's not a duplicate, it is an actual extra one. And so I don't want to do this one. And then it says, hey, do you want to remove self loops? So this is where something is double tagged. So let's say it's crime and crime, crime, semicolon, crime. This happens a lot actually when you start doing text analysis where certain words are connected together. I'm not going to do that in this case, I'm going to do this in this case because if there are duplicates of the same word within the tags, that's a mistake, not an actual thing. So I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. And then it's going to say, you're sure that you want to do this, that it's going to be put into that, and you say yes. Okay, so now what it tells me is how many nodes. So there's 211 nodes, and there are 2,669 connections between those nodes. So basically what this is telling me is that there are 211 different subjects between the larceny and the assault tags, and they're connected with this many things. So there's multiple connections across. On average, it looks like probably about 10, but we can actually test that in a bit. So we're going to go okay. So now what you can see is that it automatically has created an ID, a label, and then a frequency. This is how many times something has popped up. So if I sort this, the number one in here is we have the governor of Mississippi showing up 291 times. That makes sense. They're the governors of Mississippi letters. Then we have larceny. So larceny shows up a bunch. This makes sense. I tagged it for larceny. Now, you'll notice that assault and battery actually shows up way less. So it's only 75. So proportionally speaking, there's way more larceny mentioned in the letters compared to your assault and battery ones, which also makes sense. And then we have all of these other ones. So we've got a lot of prisoners, prison sentences, we've got pardons, we've got petitions. So all of these things are also attached to this. And so what it looks like is that a lot of these letters are like, hey, yeah, maybe they did this crime, but I would like to petition you to pardon them. And that seems to be what it is. So these are all of the nodes. The edges are how they're connected together, so to and from. So Mississippi governor, clemency. Prisoners, Michigan. Freedmen, flagellation, circuit courts, appellate courts, right? So how are they connecting together and how many times did that happen, right? So this is the weight is, again, similar to that how many times did that happen. So what does this look like? So if we go over into overview, this is what it'll initially look like. In Gephi, it's going to try and maximize the amount of space within some sort of quadrant. So you're very rarely going to leave it like this because you actually want to be able to see what's happening here. Now, this is where you get into, okay, so we've got nodes, we've got layouts, and then we have all of these different statistics in here. You may originally start with it saying filters. If you do, you can also head over into the statistics. The statistics are a way that we'll be able to mess around with this and make something that looks a little bit prettier. Okay, so with this, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the layout of it, and I'm going to change the size of the points so that they're ranked by how often they show up. So the first thing that I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go up to appearance, and I'm going to click on nodes, and I'm going to do ranking. Now I'm going to rank this one by frequency. So frequency, again, is how many times does it show up, and I don't want to do that actually by color. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to switch it up here on the top left-hand side. On the top left-hand side, I'm going to do it by the size, not the color. You can do it by color and see if you want. I'm going to change the colors later, though, so I don't really want to mess with that. But I am going to do the frequency. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one to 10. Are we going to work? Hello? We don't want to do that way. That's okay. So I'm just going to go and do this one up to 10. And this one I'm going to say up to something like 30. You can mess around with this and see how it looks. Depending on how many different things you have, this is where you're going to want to adjust that. So I'm going to apply that. Now, I can't really see the biggest one, so you can see actually here. So you can see kind of the biggest ones are pretty small, so I'm actually going to keep making these ones larger. I don't know, let's try double the size. So let's go 60. Let's apply that one. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. So now we can clearly see some of the ones that are more common. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I want to try and spread this out in different ways. What I will say with these ones is some of them are additive. Actually, most of them are additive. So if you start with one, it's going to adjust from that first one into the other one. So I don't mind. I like Force Atlas. Force Atlas is not too bad. I like Yifanu. You can also mess around with each of these to change how it looks, like how heavy and how much gravity. Think of these kind of like planets, and they're moving based on how large they are. And these steps in here are basically what are the gravitational forces and how much push and pull do each of these things have. So this is going to be this one now. I don't actually love this one for this as of right now. So let's try actually Force Atlas and see what happens with this one. Okay, so it's now readjusting that. All right, so now I can't see anything, so I'm going to do expansion. Remember how I said it was additive? This one is just going to blow out my thing so I can see it a little bit better. There we go. So now I can see that the heaviest ones are in here, right? And all of my smaller ones are at the edges. So we're going to leave this one here, and then in the next one, we're going to run some statistics and recolor this so that we can see what things are connected together, give it some text attached to it as well so that we can see what the text is and what the largest ones and smaller ones are. And then we're going to go from there. All right, thanks so much.